All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. You guys sent in some really interesting stuff this week, and I'm excited to chat about it with our expert.
Definitely. It's a little different from our usual topics, but definitely timely.
Yeah, we're diving into something you don't see every day as a deep dive topic, a Christmas ad campaign.
Yep, from Deutsche Telekom, no less.
Right. And it's not just any ad. This one's really got people talking. We received a bunch of articles, a ton of social media reactions. It's interesting to see how this commercial is really striking a nerve with
Yeah,
folks.
it's interesting, right? Like on the surface, it's just an ad, but it's tapping into something, I don't know, more significant.
More universal.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
a desire for connection, unity. I don't know, especially in a world that feels so divided right now.
Okay, so let's break it down for those who haven't seen the ad. It starts with these two girls, right?
Oh,
And they're living in these separate, almost like fantastical worlds.
yeah. And it's so clever how they reveal that these worlds are actually, well, they're snow globes.
Oh, yeah, the snow globes. I completely forgot about that. And they're separated by this wall of glass. Like, it's so visually striking.
Right. And those snow globes are key, I think. They're like a metaphor for the barriers we create in society,
Hmm.
the echo chambers, the ideological divides, all the things that keep us from truly seeing and connecting with each other.
And then you've got these girls. They just want to connect. They're playing, sharing their worlds, despite that physical barrier. It's so innocent.
Exactly. It reminds us of a time when, well, when connection was maybe simpler, before all the complexities of adult life kind of took over.
Yeah, yeah. And then it gets even more interesting when you see the girls' families. They're not too happy about this whole friendship thing.
It's like they're reflecting that societal pressure, right? Like
Oh,
you shouldn't
yeah.
be friends with someone who's different from you. It's a message we see, well, everywhere, unfortunately.
Okay, but these girls, they don't give up. They decide to challenge those barriers, quite literally.
The gifts.
Yes, they exchange gifts, a rock and a brick, and use them to smash the glass wall.
Powerful imagery.
So powerful. It's like they're saying, we're not going to let these barriers define us.
It really is. It taps into that basic human need to connect. There's actually, there was a study I read recently about how social isolation can be as harmful to our health as uh, smoking.
Wow, that's really striking.
It is, right. So this ad is playing on something very real, very human, especially during the holidays, which should be a time for coming together.
Yeah, you're right. And then the ad ends with, well, with the girls' worlds literally merging. The snow globes shatter and they finally come together. But it's not just a happy ending, is it?
No, it's more than that. It's like a call to action.
Right, right. With that tagline, connections begin when barriers break.
Yeah, it's more than just a catchy slogan. It's asking us, the viewers, what barriers are we holding on to? What connections are we missing out on because of them?
And what I find so fascinating is that this message is coming from, well, a corporation. I mean, Deutsche Telekom. They're a telecommunications giant. And they're essentially saying, hey, our business is about connection, but true connection takes more than technology, right? It takes a willingness to bridge divides.
Absolutely. It makes you think about what companies should be doing.
Right.
It's not just about selling a product.
Right. They seem to be putting their money where their mouth is. There was an article you sent me that highlighted some of the initiatives that Deutsche Telekom is involved in, promoting tolerance and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So they're not just talking the talk.
But what really surprised me, I think, was how this ad, which was made by a German company, seems to be resonating so strongly with
That's
Americans.
a great point. It might be because it subtly taps into the political climate here. Did you notice the colors?
Colors.
Yeah, in the girls' worlds. One is bathed in red light, the other in blue.
Oh, wow, yeah. I didn't even pick up on that.
It's subtle, but it's there,
Yeah,
like a nod to the partisan divide in the U.S.
you're right. I mean, those colors are instantly recognizable, especially for Americans.
Exactly. It adds another layer of meaning, especially for that audience. And there's another detail you might have missed too,
Oh,
the music.
the music.
Yeah, it's a Ukrainian carol, Shedrik. Given what's going on in Ukraine right now, it adds another, I don't know, another dimension to the ad.
Wow, I totally missed that. But it makes sense. It fits perfectly with that message of breaking down barriers and finding unity. And it's a carol that's known all over the world, often performed in English as Carol of the Bells.
Right. So it reinforces this idea of a universal desire for peace and connection. Like it's something we all crave, no matter where we're from.
It's almost like this ad is speaking directly to America, acknowledging the pain of that division while also offering a little bit of hope.
Yeah. It's a reminder that Even with all these differences, connection is still possible. But we have to choose it. We have to be
Mhm.
willing to challenge those barriers and see each other as, well, as human beings.
This is getting deep for a Christmas ad. I love it. Okay, so you mentioned earlier about the audience reactions to the ad, right? Tell me more. You mentioned earlier that the audience reactions have been pretty powerful. What are people saying?
Oh, yeah. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. It seems to be hitting a nerve, especially with folks who, well, who are really feeling the weight of all the division in the world right now.
It's like it's validating this collective longing for something more, you know? A yearning for, I don't know, for unity and connection.
Right, exactly. It's like a breath of fresh air in a world that often feels so suffocating.
It's interesting how such a simple story told through the eyes of, well, of children can evoke such a profound response.
Yeah, that's the genius of it, I think. Using kids as the protagonists allows the ad to bypass all our adult cynicism and
Yeah.
tap into something more primal, like that instinctual desire for connection we all have.
Yeah, like we're reminded of a time when building relationships wasn't so complicated, you know, before all the labels and judgments and stuff.
Exactly. And one of the articles you sent, it mentioned that some people were actually brought to tears by the ad.
Oh wow, right?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of things, right?
Yeah.
The narrative itself is really well done. Like it builds this tension. You really feel for the characters. And then when the girls finally break down that barrier, it's like a cathartic release.
Oh yeah, it's like this emotional payoff.
Exactly. And the music plays a huge role too.
Yeah.
Shedrick, that Ukrainian carol, it's so beautiful and haunting.
Yeah, and the lyrics, even in the English version, they're all about hope and generosity.
Right, exactly. So it amplifies the emotional impact of the visuals. And then you add in the fact that, well, that so many of us are craving this connection right now. It's like the ad is speaking directly to a deep unmet need.
It's like a balm for the soul, especially in these divisive times.
Yeah, like a little glimmer of hope. And, several of the YouTube comments specifically mentioned the current political climate here in the U.S. They were saying that the ad made them emotional because of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like this ad created by a company outside of the US is holding up a mirror to American society, you know, reflecting back all that pain and that deep yearning for something better.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that the world is watching. They're hoping that America can figure this out, that they can rediscover their capacity for unity and bridge the divides that have become so prominent.
Yeah. There's this sense of longing in a lot of the comments, this desire for a world where differences are celebrated rather than feared.
Like a return to a simpler time,
Yeah.
before everything became so polarized.
Right, right. One commenter said, and I thought this was so interesting, they said, it's the invisible wall that people build between each other because of perceived differences.
Hmm.
Nationality, religion, sexual orientation, and then they perpetuate it by passing it on to their children.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Like we inherit these barriers, these prejudices, without even realizing it. It's like it's built into the system.
So this ad isn't just about breaking down those external barriers. It's about confronting the internal walls we've built within ourselves.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like we need to examine our own biases, our own assumptions, and choose to see the humanity in everyone, regardless of their differences.
It's a call to action, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
Right. We need to be more intentional about building bridges,
Yeah.
creating spaces where those differences are valued, not feared.
And it starts with recognizing that, that connection is a choice. We can choose to perpetuate those divisions, or we can choose to break the cycle.
Yeah. Build a more inclusive world, a more compassionate world.
So many of the comments, they highlighted the role of children in all of this. Like they're the ones who can see past the labels and the prejudices.
It's like they're reminding us of this essential truth.
Yeah.
Like we are all connected,
Yeah.
no matter what.
And the ad uses this idea so cleverly. It shows the families disapproving of the girls' friendship, Like it's the adults who are creating and reinforcing those barriers. And the kids are the ones who instinctively want to break them down.
Right, exactly. It's a powerful critique of how we socialize children into accepting this idea of division as the norm.
So that tagline, connections begin when barriers break, it takes on a whole new meaning in this context, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just about physical barriers. It's about those mental walls we erect, the prejudices we hold, the fears that keep us from from truly connecting with each other.
It's a reminder that true connection takes work. It takes vulnerability, empathy, and a willingness to step outside our comfort zones.
And to recognize that we have more to gain from building bridges than reinforcing those walls.
This ad seems to have resonated so deeply because it speaks to that yearning for connection, this desire to transcend the divisions that have become so prevalent.
And it offers us a little glimmer of hope, like a vision of a world where connection actually triumphs over division. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, that the human spirit, with its capacity for empathy, compassion, unity, that it can still prevail.
This conversation has been so insightful. We've explored the ad's narrative, the symbolism, the emotional impact, and that powerful message of connection.
And we've seen how it's really resonating with people, especially right now in the context of everything that's happening in the world. But there's one more element we need to talk about to fully grasp, I think, the depth of this whole campaign: the music.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned the Ukrainian carol earlier, Shadrik. Let's dive into that a bit more. What's the significance of that musical choice? How does it add to the message of hope and connection? All right, so we've talked about the visuals, the emotional impact, but let's get into the music now. It's not your typical, jingle bells kind of Christmas music, is it?
No, not at all. The fact that they use Shedrik, that Ukrainian carol, it's pretty brilliant, especially now,
Yeah.
with everything going on in the world.
Yeah. It definitely adds another layer to the whole thing. So for those who might not be familiar, what is Shedrik? What's the significance?
Well, it's actually a traditional Ukrainian New Year's song, but most people know it as, Carol of the Bells.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it's just this beautiful, haunting melody.
Yeah.
And even the lyrics, the English version, they talk about hope and generosity and a brighter future, all that good stuff.
So using this song, rooted in Ukrainian culture, in an ad about breaking down barriers at a time when, well, when Ukraine is going through so much,
Mm.
it's a powerful choice, right?
It is. It's like this unspoken message of solidarity,
Mhm.
like a recognition that we're all connected no matter where we're from or what's happening politically.
Right. It's like Deutsche Telekom is saying, hey, even in the midst of all this conflict, there's still beauty, there's still hope. And it's a carol that's known all over the world, so they're tapping into this shared experience. It reinforces the idea that connection, this desire for connection, it's universal.
Totally. And Shindrik, even though it's, a New Year's carol, it has this timeless quality. It speaks to this deep human longing for peace, for abundance, for a world where good things prevail.
Yeah, and so many of the YouTube comments mentioned the music specifically. Like they were praising how beautiful it was, how it added to the emotional impact of the whole ad.
The music elevates it, right? It
Yeah.
becomes something more than just like a message about unity.
Right.
It adds this spiritual depth.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating how music can do that, evoke such strong emotions. It's like it becomes another character in the story almost.
Right. It's not just background noise. It guides us through the whole emotional journey, from that anticipation to the tension to the release when the girls finally break down that wall.
It's like the music lets us experience that message of connection and hope in a way that, words just couldn't do on their own.
It shows how powerful art can be. Even if you don't know the history of Shadrach or, anything about Ukraine, you can still feel the emotion.
It's a reminder that we're all in this together, that despite our differences, we share this common humanity, this desire for peace, for connection. And sometimes it takes a simple story and a beautiful melody to remind us of that.
It really does.
Wow, so this ad, it's more than just an ad, isn't it?
It is. Like we said, it's layered. The visuals, the story, the music, it all works together.
And it's a testament to the power of, well, creative storytelling.
Yeah. To touch hearts and maybe even, inspire a little bit of change.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. We've explored so much, the symbolism, the emotional impact, the music, and how this ad is resonating with people all over the world.
And I think the biggest takeaway is this: connection, it's a choice. We can choose to build walls or we can choose to build bridges.
It's about focusing on what unites us, not what divides us.
Yes.
And as we head into this holiday season, let's all remember that message. Connections begin when barriers break. What barriers will you choose to break down? What connections will you make?
That's the question we should all be asking ourselves.